Maximus,
Sambo.
how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you, sir. Thanks for asking.
No, look, I'm always caring about you. You know, your well-being.
I'm still sick, but that's okay.
That's good.
We're talking to vacations today.
We are
Arguably-
Newey's finest.
Yeah, and a band that have made it big overseas that Australia is still sleeping on. You think of bands like Parcels, Chase Atlantic, bands that have found success overseas that Australia needs to get around a little bit more.
I think for certain subsets, there's like a big fandom, but I think you're right. Like from a mainstream perspective, people aren't around vacations as much as they should be.
Their new single, Holy Grail, incredible. Like so dreamscape meets pop, like ethereal vibes. It's really cool. We're chatting with Campbell, the lead singer.
Yep.
We dove into the new album that's about to come out.
Yep.
The new single that drops today.
Yes.
Time of Listening. And I think it was a really good chat.
Absolutely. And also, if you are listening on the day this drops, their tour starts tomorrow. So get in it, listen to this, listen to the new single, then buy those tickets and get down there, support the boys at the live show. You will not be disappointed.
No, I'll be checking out the Brisbane show for sure.
100%. Well, Sam, why don't we check out you introducing us to Campbell?
Jet lagged, fucked around at the airport, but here nonetheless ahead of their Australian tour. We're joined by Campbell from Vacations. Mate, how are you feeling?
I'm okay. I'm all right. How about yourself?
Mate, I feel like I can't complain at all. We were talking off air about the pains of travel, and it sounds like you guys have been through the ringer, so we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you all for having me. It does mean a lot. So happy to chat for as long as I'm standing.
Look, we won't keep you standing too long, so we'll keep it light, we'll keep it airy. We're keen to dive into the new album, but before we do, we start the show the same way every week, and that's just to get an idea of what you're listening to lately.
You know what? I'm actually not listening to anything, which sounds controversial being a musician, but I find it difficult to listen to anything while I'm on tour because I'm so close to music 24/7. The last thing I want to be doing is listening to more music. I was scrolling through Instagram Reels this morning. I am having phone time, just running in bed at the hotel here. And there was a lot of new artists popping up for me. So I'm just saving everything to a playlist and leaving a trail for when I get back home to listen to all of these albums that I've been meaning to and check out all of these new artists. But yeah, I wish I had something for you, but it's a really funny thing while I'm on tour or even when I'm making a record. It's just like I go through periods where I'm like not necessarily engaging with music, and then I'll kind of just come back to it and listen to everything I possibly can in a really short period of time, and then kind of take a break and then come back to it. It's like a cycle.
You got to mainline all of the new stuff in like a couple of day period just to really get up to speed.
Yeah, that's kind of it though. I don't know if y'all are like similar where you go through periods, but I find listening to music can just be exhausting.
Yeah, it can be.
In terms of just trying to keep up with trends or what people are saying is, the next hot new thing or you got to check out this new artist. I'm like, that's cool. I am 6 months behind. I'll, check out this artist and then I'll catch up to what this new thing is. It can feel as if music or anything really in terms of like music, books, anything creative or artistic can move so quickly these days. It can feel hard to keep up.
When you do it for a living, it's a whole extra thing to add in. So, yep, I feel that exactly. Sam mentioned it at the top of the show, but, we're here to talk about the tour and the album that goes with it. And look, we've been lucky enough to get a little sneak peek listen of Pursuit of Anything, which is the new record. And it's sounding as lush and as beautiful as any previous Vacations release. But I suppose...
Thank you.
As a whole, collection of tracks, what kind of direction did you want to head in with this record that you was a step away from previous releases?
I wanted to try songwriting relying less on the guitar because that is my main instrument. I've been playing it since I was 15. I'm 31 now, so I wrote a lot of songs from using the guitar as a starting point. But I wanted to branch away a little bit to sort of set a foundation and then build upon that and then add the guitar later, only because guitar being my main instrument, if I pick it up, I will usually gravitate towards a certain set of chords, and it's not exactly the most inspiring thing. So trying out new ideas on the piano, an instrument I'm less well versed in, can feel a bit more fresh and exciting. But then also just because we've been a band for what, 10, 11 years now, I have been very introspective and reflecting on a lot of our achievements, whether as a group or even individually. Myself now living in, say, New York, or like Joey's now a father, Jake got married last year, Nate's now living in Melbourne. Like our lives are all kind of moving in all of these different directions. And it's really funny to think about when we were, say, 19 or 20 and, you know, playing DIY shows in our hometown of Newcastle. So just thinking a lot about that, and that's lyrically what a lot of the album is kind of based off, I should say, just like very, again, introspective, seeing how all of our lives are kind of unfolding and going down these different paths, these different narratives, but how we still sort of connect and bond over our, you know, musical project. We're all best friends. We've all been through so much. And then also, I guess, like, kind of taking all of those experiences and wanting to write the record that I always wanted to when I was, say, 20, but I didn't really have the skill set or the production chops. Because there was definitely a lot of things I wanted to try, but back then I would be like, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how I could possibly translate it live. But I feel like now I just know how to do that because I've been able to work under so many great people or just played so many shows. You know, we've made a bunch of records between then and now. So I wanted to kind of go down this path of exploring something a bit more lush or like 70s inspired, very Beach Boys, very chamber pop-esque, while still retaining a lot of elements that are intrinsically now Vacations. It's another thing too, like when I start making a record, I kind of give myself very strict guidelines or like direction. So after No Place Like Home, I thought to myself, well, there's two clear paths here. Either I go down a more pop-orientated route and continue writing songs like Next Exit, Midwest, Over You, Close Quarters, which would have been really fun. I think it maybe would have been more of the same. So I was thinking, well, the other path there is then looking at a song like, say, Off Season, which I really loved, but I wish I spent maybe a bit more time on it, or on reflection, I was like, I could have done this or I could have done that. And I wanted to explore that path a bit more. It felt like that sort of sonic palette was calling to me more than the pop stuff. So using that as like a starting point and then going down that path. And I'm like, well, what if I write more songs that, you know, use pianos or like French horns, or like, you know, I can only use a spring reverb, or there's like lots of vocal harmonies, stuff like that.
On that, you know, you're talking about wanting to create this lush sound and changing, I guess, the approach you guys have. At time of release, when this episode drops, I See Myself in You will have just come out, and you know, compared to the shimmering sounds of Holy Grail, this one in particular feels quite introspective and almost melancholy in that sound. Can you give us a bit of insight into where you wanted to take I See Myself in You in particular?
That's interesting you say that it's melancholic. I think it's kind of uplifting, although I can kind of, yeah. I feel like this always happens with any song I write, which is fun. But that song is inspired by my parents, and having a conversation with them when I was going through a difficult period with a friendship, and they were able to offer so much advice and insight, and realizing that they had been through so many experiences similar to mine, and really that they are just at this point now my best friends, and they're not really this caretaker or this, you know, parental figure. They are just people, and I am just like them, and they are just like me. And also them wondering, like, you know, am I going to be a father one day? Having the same conversation with my own child was kind of a scary concept, so I wanted to take that as the theme and write about that. But just yeah, that song is probably one of the most orchestral sounding songs on the record because there is like piano, French horns. There's a flugel, which I didn't know existed up until like 6 months ago. There's all kinds of other elements and instruments on that track because I wanted to create this kind of wall of sound and make something that's like dense, but again, not necessarily relying on like a big guitar sound or like, leaning on other elements. It's like, how can I achieve the same feeling but using something else to keep it refreshing for myself as a songwriter?
It sounds like that you've taken a lot of inspiration from, say, like a Brian Wilson type, approach to. I mean, you mentioned Beach Boys obviously before, but specifically Brian Wilson's approach to how he looked at the, the harmonies and the progressions that were kind of in his head and getting them out on paper.
Yeah.
When you're...
Oh, I was gonna say, Brian Wilson, that was kind of like the goal of what I was doing with Holy Grail. Like a lot of the vocal harmonies that come in on the second chorus, it's really me just trying a Brian Wilson impression because I'm like, that thought I would have had when I was 20 and going, well, I can't do this live. It's now like I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna do it because I'm gonna use the studio as an instrument and see how many versions of me I can stack and just create this kind of wall of noise.
Yeah. What I was going to say is, obviously Brian Wilson, over the course of his career, brought in all of these different orchestral moments, theremins and flugelhorns, like you're saying. When you were first finding those textures and those tones and going, like, as you said, you kind of discovered the flugelhorn, was it also a case of bringing the rest of the band along and going, guys, we're just going to have to fucking figure out how this instrument works and how we can put it in the rest of the sound? Or
I would kind of just say, hey, I'm going to try this thing out. I know it sounds crazy, but just let me do what I need to do. And then I would send it back and everyone was like, yeah, this sounds beautiful. Like it's...
Hey, as long as that's a reaction, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It was definitely a moment where it's like, okay, we could go completely overboard of this and just have like an orchestral album, which is not what I wanted to do, but there were definitely moments where I'm like, I feel like we need to try something in this spot, or I think this moment could be highlighted or, enhanced with something like trumpets or trombones, or just trying to make it sound very dreamlike or like a step above or something, like very grand and luxurious.
One of the other tracks, Fooling You, is a bit of a love letter to Newcastle. You mentioned your hometown. And potentially kind of a Newcastle that maybe doesn't exist anymore. Like, it's a Newcastle a couple of years ago.
Yeah, not for me.
I mean, we can never go back to the beauty days of the Pasha Bulka, but what kind of has changed in the city for you that triggered this kind of inspiration?
Actually, fun fact, that track is also inspired by Running Away by Sly and the Family Stone, which is one of my favorite songs by him.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, I've gone through a funny couple of years of culture shock with moving to the US and then reverse culture shock with returning to Australia every time. And there was a moment recently where I came back to Newcastle and I felt very out of place because I didn't recognize so much of the city and it finally felt like a different place. Obviously, my parents still live there and I've got some friends that haven't moved yet that are still there, but I grew up right next to my high school, Newcastle High, and that's been completely re-renovated. There's roads that have been repaved and go in different directions. There are so many places, like, say, the Cambridge Hotel or the store, which don't exist anymore. Hunter Street Mall is still a bit of a bombshell. King Street's deserted. Like, there's places that feel a little eerie or ghost-like to me now. But then there are other spots as well which feel like they have more life in them, like Islington or Carrington, Mayfield, like further out in the city. It's strange. It's a really weird feeling. I don't think it's ever necessarily going to go away. I've made my peace with it now at this point too. It's not really a crazy concept that places change over time, but it's weird to experience it because it feels like for the first time that's truly what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, RIP to the Cambo.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I wish it didn't go away.
I mean, on this sort of culture shock and sort of, I'm gonna say like almost like disillusionment. It leads me into the next question about Holy Grail, which, to be completely transparent, was how I discovered you guys. I was being fed.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
I was
cool,
being
though.
fed the
I'm
ads,
so
and
okay with that.
yeah, it's unreal. I love it. And then since then, I've been diving into you guys. But you've mentioned that as a song, it is a bit of an ode to feeling a bit disillusioned with the industry and feeling like you only have, I guess, one chance at this. I mean, from our perspective, it seems interesting because you guys have just made the move you've made the move to the US, and it's all coming up vacations from the outside perspective. But is there like an imposter syndrome that manifests in you when you're working on these records? Like, oh my god, we need
Not
to nail
really.
this?
I actually don't. I'm not trying to brag when I say this. I don't have imposter syndrome.
That's good.
That's great.
As per my therapist says, although she says that I have something called survivor's guilt, where we are as a band successful in our own right, but I'm surrounded by so many talented friends and creatives that haven't achieved success in their own work, and I see what they do and I'm like, but this is so good. Why isn't anyone listening to this? Why are they listening to me instead? Like, this isn't fair. Like, everyone should be coming up together. Which is always an eternal bummer.
Yeah,
I try to do what I can, but yeah, the Holy Grail is really just, like that. You're right, that disillusionment with the music industry and pursuing something that brings you so much joy and fulfillment, yet at the same time is also a cause for stress or anxiety. Just feeling very frustrated with the industry at times. And it's like, how much do I need to do to prove myself? And again, because so much of this record is reflective on my younger self, me at 20, if they met me now at 31, they would go, you're done. You have achieved everything and more that you possibly could have wanted to. Like the fact that I'm able to live in New York, but then I'm currently in Malaysia. And Jake, why did you say? Sorry, I just got a text from Jake. That's funny. No, he was just like, Campbell's interview is loud as fuck. I can't help that.
Get
but
headphones
anyway,
on, Jake. He can fucking defend himself if he needs.
Yeah. But no, it's great. It's a blessing. Like I feel really blessed with this music career and everything. I think all of us do. But it's just a funny thing. It's just like what. Like we will achieve so much, but then I'm like, okay, but now I want the next thing, and then I want the next thing after that. But it kind of never ends, and it's like, well, what point are you just satisfied?
One thing I did want to ask about as well, you said you're living in New York now. We've had the pleasure of talking to a few Australian bands that have made the leap over to the States. Chase Atlantic are probably the biggest one that come to mind, and it's always interesting to see Australian bands blow up overseas, but then Australian audiences, sometimes aren't aware of the sound, or the sound just doesn't resonate in the Australian market. I'm not saying that's a vacations thing, but have you guys found that sort of?
I think that's a vacations thing. Like, it took us like up until No Place Like Home to really get any traction in Australia. That album only came out 2 years ago. It feels like a lifetime ago now. But it took us like 8 years to kind of get anywhere with Australia and start selling out shows or get media attention, which I guess is just how it is in Australia. And it is definitely a slog by comparison to, say, other countries, which I feel like don't have a case of tall poppy syndrome, or there's simply more resources and, I guess, infrastructure built, like to make touring more sustainable or make more connections or play with more bands or meet people. Yeah, it's a funny one for sure.
And so, I mean, back to the culture shock element, you talked on, having the culture shock over there, now the reverse culture shock. The tall poppy syndrome, what was that like going to the States and realizing that just doesn't exist?
Liberating. I don't understand why tall poppy syndrome exists or why it's so ingrained in Australian culture. I find it quite sad, honestly. I love the US. I love US culture. I love that everyone is so supportive and there's a lot of camaraderie. People just really think whatever you're doing is cool and interesting, and that, there's just genuine interest. Whereas in Australia, it's like at the moment of any success, people just get quite annoyed or upset by it, and it's weird. I don't get why we do it, especially when there's so many good Australian bands or artists or whoever. There's so much cool shit happening in Australia, but we just don't want to support it. It's almost like it's embarrassing to listen to anything that's Australian unless it's so established, like Tame Impala. Yeah, I don't really get it. And then you go to the US and it's like, this is so much more fun. I'm having a better experience and a better time. And I'm not surprised that so many Australian artists are just moving overseas now because they're like, fuck this. Like, this isn't fun. I can't make a living touring here because there's not enough places not enough cities to tour, or like, the festival industry is going through it, or there's just simply more of a market in other countries. And again, there's just more infrastructure. There's more chance or success at a career or to make a living. Like so many of my friends in the industry now live in Los Angeles or they've moved to the UK. And these are all artists that have been like high rotation on Triple J or have played every festival under the sun, or sell out shows. Like, they're bigger than us in Australia, but they're like, I can't keep doing this. I'm going to move overseas.
It's that combination of the tall poppy syndrome, but also you're right. Like, Australia's such a good incubator, but then there's just not that much room to spread your wings when you do hit a bit of success. Like, it's become a big fish in a small pond very quickly here.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. I wish. Yeah, I wish the culture was different. I don't know what it's going to take for that to change. Maybe it won't ever change, and that's okay. Like, I'm over here doing my thing, so that's fine. But I think a lot of artists, really just want to break out and go overseas. I don't think any Australian artist necessarily wants to just tour Australia for the rest of their career. Like, they all want to break out in the US or the UK or Europe, South America, like any other band.
I mean, speaking of touring, you guys have just wrapped some US tour dates, and as we speak to you, you're about to kick off some Asian tour dates. How did the new tracks from the new album go in their first round of road testing in the US?
Not shabby. Like, the crowds loved it. The crowds were all singing along, and it felt good. People bobbing their heads, recording on their phones. It took us a couple of shows to figure it out and get these songs sounding consistent and cohesive. Holy Grail, especially because that is such a difficult song to play live because I stacked the vocal harmonies, but that's something we'll just figure out. But it's good, and I'm excited to play more songs from the record and see how it all goes down. It's always fun playing new material because it makes a live show feel so fresh, and it gives you something to look forward to,
Did you have to bring the flugelhorn out to do live, or?
I would love to. Look, if it were up to me, I would always have like 6 of us on stage, because normally we tour with someone that plays keys and sings, and then someone else that plays guitar and sings, and then plays a bit of sax, which funnily enough was Alex Leahy on the last tour we did, and she's great to tour with. Love having her in the band, but just trying to make the whole thing a bit more full. It's at a point now where it's like we can't necessarily tour just the 4 of us, because I really do need those additional vocals and those layers, especially keys, because we have synths in like all of our songs. It's like at bare minimum we need that, but I would love to have like a choir or something, or like full send it, just have like that wall of noise on stage.
Hell yeah,
that'd be awesome.
It'd be really cool, yeah.
While you were in the US, you did a few nights at the Troubadour in LA, and for listeners who may not know, like, it's a huge, not necessarily a big venue like physically, but a big venue, culturally. It's been the launching pad for massive artists like Elton John and Guns N' Roses, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and all kinds of people. Did you kind of get a sense when you were playing the Troubadour that it is a storied venue, like you're setting up in a place that's had these massive legends?
Not really.
Even better.
I had been told so much about it, and I knew it was historic, but it was really funny being up there and thinking like, wow, this is a 500 cap room, but it feels like I'm playing to like 100 people or something. Like, it's such a funny layout of a room. It's so wide, but then very narrow. But it was great. I mean, I was having the best time because my parents were there. So that's what I was thinking more about that. I was thinking more about I get to spend time with my parents, who have flown over all the way from Newcastle to see me play and hang out with them. And I think they enjoyed it more than I did because they knew how much it meant, and they were telling me about Elton John and all of that. And, you know, I got to take them to the green room and we got a photo on stage, and
right.
that was more special to me than, I guess, than the venue itself.
I mean, are your parents the biggest Vacations fan in the world? Like,
I would
when
say
you're going
so.
through- yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
they've come to almost all of our LA shows, and like, you know, they're always, anytime we're on tour, they're like, okay, well, we're going to go on a holiday now and come see you play. Like they use it as a way to have a holiday and then go have some fun, which is great. It means I get to see my parents because, you know, I don't get to see them that often these days, just because I live in the US.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
very
genuinely.
sweet.
That probably sounded really sarcastic, but it actually is genuinely very nice.
Yeah. No, it is. It's very sweet. I'm very grateful.
Well, you are back in Australia very soon, and you're doing all the major cities, but no Vacations tour would be complete without, of course, the homecoming show in Newey. Despite all its changes and despite it not feeling the same, does it still hit different hitting the Newcastle stage, you know, and having all your friends and family come and, you know, have that sense of, I guess, home again in some way?
It does. Well, I mean, it does. It does feel a bit strange and a bit weird. Like, granted, all my family is there, but so many of my friends have now moved to Melbourne or Sydney or Canberra or Brisbane. So when we come home to play to Newcastle, it's now genuine fans of Vacations from Newcastle, which is a funny thing because I just always think back to early days of playing shows with bands like Rave Tapes, Voodoo Youth, Wave Bomb, the whole No-Fi collective. But that doesn't exist anymore. It's like of a different era. So again, it's just it's always a funny, surreal kind of experience because you're going from playing these massive rooms in the US and then you come back home and it's fun. It's low pressure. All of us just get to go home after the show. We don't have to go to a hotel or anything, and it's really sweet.
Where's the best place to head for a pint pre-show? Is it the Hamo Station?
No, I think the Hamo Station's a bit cursed, honestly. I don't know anymore. I don't really know what's going off. I like what's it called? The Falcon?
Okay.
There's like an American style bar called the Falcon at the east end of town. Like that's really nice. Or the Maryville Hotel. I like that spot a lot as well. Yeah, it's just been a minute since I've like gone around town, so I don't really know what's going on anymore.
I mean, you heard it here first, people. Newcastle tourism, fuck off. Campbell's got the good oil.
Yeah. And look, as long as they serve a 2 years old, I'll be happy.
Oh fuck yeah, 2 years old. I haven't had a 2 years old in ages. Good shit.
Yeah, I really like 2 years old, and you can't get it anywhere else. And I've started drinking Guinness now in the States because it's the closest thing I can get. Like Americans do not have dark beer, which I find is really weird.
Yep. No, they're not great with beer. They're good with a lot of things, but beer is not something they nailed, really.
No, they don't. I will say I don't mind Miller High Life. It tastes like nothing, but it is a great light beer. I will like drink a couple of those back. It's also really fun if you have a Miller High Life and Aperol, and you get something called a spaghetti, which is basically a poor man's Negroni.
I'll tell you what, if you can send me the recipe, I'm going to try that out because that sounds wild. I don't know if I'm not saying good at the moment, but I'm not saying bad.
It's surprisingly hits. Like it's cheap as fuck, and it is like delicious on like a hot summer's day. Very fun kind of drink. But yeah, I get you. Like beers there are just not the same as they are in Australia, which I know sounds like obviously really biased, but it's funny how other countries just pour beers. It's just weird. I don't know.
Yep. No, seconded. I can back that. Well, listen to I See Myself in You by Vacations, which drops today at the time of release, wherever you get your music. It's the latest taste of their upcoming fourth album, Pursuit of Anything, which drops on October 2nd. So make sure you make a phone reminder right now to catch up on it releases. If you're here in Australia, catch them live in Perth, Adelaide, Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, and Newcastle between tomorrow, July 11th and 19th. Head to vacationsband.com for more info and tickets. Campbell, thank you so much for taking the time and having a chat to us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.